Don's Wife, Chapter 6, Part 2. She moved to the window and saw quite a few anonymous men, shoppers, hawkers, and policeman types, gather around him. In no time, Bhau and he had melted among the stall owners and shoppers. Her parents came to pick her up at night the same day, as had been discussed with R.D. In their wisdom, Professor Sathe and his wife had thought that the rebuilding of bridges between them and their daughter should have a celebratory initiation rather than the suddenness of collecting her and her luggage and transferring back to their house. It was decided that they will go for a family dinner to an exclusive restaurant and have a relaxed evening together, and the following day her luggage could be picked up. In their view, they were acting with circumspection and treading carefully, considering her mental state. Hence, the table had already been booked at the Land's End. Atmosphere was soothing and inviting, sans any kind of oppressiveness that one feels when one goes to an expensive restaurant and it is nearly full to the capacity by high-nosed, overbearing guests. It was early evening of a weekday. Hence, only 3 or 4 tables had been occupied. The food was good, the wine excellent, and service wonderful. Even the piano player was at his best. Kamini felt relaxed and was beginning to think positively about her return home till the conversation strayed into incidents related to her aborted marriage. Sudha, who was in an unencumbered mood after a good wine, remarked tactlessly, "Good. The matter got sorted out and our daughter is returning home well before you are leaving for New York." "You are leaving? When are you leaving?" Kamini was taken completely by surprise. "Sunday night is the flight, that is Sunday morning for US. I'll get just about 22 hours to travel and to catch up with some rest before reporting on Monday morning." "Only 3 days between now and the time you leave? It's pretty close, isn't it?" Kamini said, sounding deflated. It was misunderstood by her parents, as Sudha said confidently, "It will be all right, don't worry. We'll manage. His tickets have already been purchased. Most of the packing is also done. Even the shopping for Kamal and his children has been done." "So, you are definitely joining the UN?" Kamini asked without letting them get any hint of the little hurt she felt inside her. "Well, I thought since this was the sole issue on which the conflict had arisen, and now that it had got sorted out," he struggled to explain. She took a long look at him and nodded a few times without revealing the betrayal she just felt, because the matter had been sorted out only that morning and he couldn't have managed the confirmation and tickets, etc., all within a day, especially when it was a holiday. She only uttered, "Good." "All is well, that ends well." Her mother tried to be philosophical. "But Sudha, you must give me the credit for this," Professor Sathe boasted. "The way I handled this, with all the tact I could muster, don't you think?" "Yeah, but I still feel you shouldn't have gone that far, going down on your knees and all that," Sudha said undiplomatically, the wine having lowered her ability for discretion considerably. "You have to do all that, Sudha," he said, protesting. "You don't know these guys. They can be pretty vindictive and dangerous. And this chap R.D., He's particularly unsparing. You know, people have had to pay with their lives for going back on their commitments or for breaking a deed with him. Instances of his ruthlessness are legendary. I have found out everything about him ever since we learnt about his true identity. It's my career aspect that I played upon, and that worked with him. Otherwise, it was a cliffhanger situation. Things could have gone very wrong, he emphasized. So it wasn't your concern regarding my marriage with Harsh that you talked to him about? Asked Kamini, sounding innocent. How could I? You know what these people are like? He would have put me on the skewer. Already had a diplomat cut into pieces for dissenting with him on some issue. These chaps have no heart or feelings. They only have egos and their big fat vanity. He concluded dramatically. Kamini gawked at her parents disbelievingly as they went on with their mild argument. Obviously, her parents had no idea of how R.D. had prevailed upon her to send her back to them. He had deployed the very same human elements, emotion, heart, feelings, while persuading her to return, that her father, in his conceit, had assumed R.D. did not possess. She was amazed at the inherent contradiction between the two separate layers of society that they had unto themselves. One supposedly highly educated and cultured, and yet vacuously pompous and deceitful, and the other believed to be crass, crude, and undereducated, and yet steeped in humility as well as gifted with tremendous grace and maturity for the need of the moment. She was lost in her thoughts when Professor Satay's cell phone rang. It was Kamal, Kamini's elder brother from Washington. Both husband and wife had a mutually flattering and uplifting conversation with their son before the cell was passed on to Kamini. Hi, Bhaiya. She tried to sound cheerful. Hi, Kamo. How you doing? He said with all the Yankee self-assuredness as well as a bit of an adopted accent. Oh, I'm great, really great. How are Mary and the kids? Fine, fine. Remember you a lot. I think we should all meet up. Now that Pop is coming to the States and you all would be joining him at some point, it should be a lot easier. Yeah, let's see. She sounded uncertain. Enjoying the dinner? Yeah, that's all right. I feel a bit strange though, this entire celebratory thing. She sounded not too enthusiastic. Well, it's a kind of a welcome dinner, isn't it? Welcoming you for returning to the family, the real family. He sounded patronizing, which she detested. She said, I didn't get that. What did you mean by real family, Bhaiya? Oh, nothing. It was just a bit of humor. You know what I mean. He tried to be smart and inventive. You know the mob is also called a family after all. And this guy you are going to marry also comes from the same set, doesn't he? The mob. Oh, Bhaiya, I wish you hadn't said that. She was hurt. What did I do? What happened? He felt alarmed. Oh, never mind, Bhaiya. Probably you didn't really mean it. You speak to Mummy. Here, just a minute. She extended her arm towards her mother, but just before she would have passed on the cell, she brought it to her mouth again to say a quick, Bye, Bhaiya, before handing it over to her, and without even bothering to hear his response to her goodbye. She stretched herself, throwing her head at the back of her seat. She pretended to relax, but her mind was fixed on her mother's conversation with her brother, complaining, explaining, complaining, explaining. She felt very lonely and exploited. When her mother finished and asked her for the dessert, Kamini declined it with a touch of bitterness. Oh no, there has been enough sweetness for one evening. Her parents were astounded. Professor Sathe ventured after a few seconds of tense silence. What do you mean, beta? Why the snide tone? You used all your tact and wit to pull me out of that marriage to help me, Dad, right? She stared at her father searchingly. To save me from ruining my life, right? He nodded. Your UN contract wasn't the real issue, right? He nodded again, rather naively, not quite knowing what she was driving at. She sized him up for a few seconds and then, with a wicked gleam in her eyes, leaned forward and said in a cold and meaningful tone, Then why don't you drop this UN thing altogether, Dad? Now that you have managed to put this marriage issue out of the way anyway. It's making the whole scenario sound pretty unclean. Professor Sathe and Sudha didn't know what hit them. Both gawked at her for some time before Professor Sathe said, looking rather bewildered, You are joking, of course, aren't you? You didn't mean it, did you, beta? She said nothing. Her eyes kept smiling. He turned grim. You know, I can't do that. I've waited for it too long, he said, looking into her eyes penetratingly. Then all of a sudden, he almost screamed, I've waited for it all my life. All my bloody life. His eyes were red and watery as he concluded in a pained but uncompromising tone. I can't throw away an opportunity which has come so late my way that it may never come again. I'm retiring in less than 2 years' time. Sorry. He was out of breath and upset. In his anger, born out of his intoxicated state, he had spoken what he had not intended to voice. The cat was out of the bag. She was speechless. Then she smiled. Her face relaxed and she said laughingly, Yes, I'm joking. Relax, Dad. Mom, don't become so serious. Of course, I was joking. Suddenly, she stood up with her bag and said urgently, I'll just come back. I'm going into the powder room. See you. And she was gone, even before her parents could utter anything, leaving them confused and somewhat ill at ease. She went straight to the rows of toilet cubicles in the empty washroom to check if any of them was occupied. Assured that none was, she entered the last one and started the flush to subdue the sound. Then she let go. Laughing, crying, and it went on. Waves of it. After a while, she felt unburdened. She came out. Was it she in the mirror? She couldn't believe it. It took many more seconds and lots of tissue paper to remove the black rivulets the flowing mascara had left on her cheeks and refix the makeup properly. Then she felt panicky and zipped out of the washroom and darted to the main entrance. She did not wait for the security to summon a cab for her. Instead, in a frenzied state, she hurried down the paved pathway of the portico to the exit gate opening on the main road. She woke up the driver of the lone auto rickshaw parked by the pavement and boarded it even before he could signal her to. As the auto pulled out, she scrambled for her cell phone and started punching on it. An intrigued Sudha went into the washroom and found it empty, but for a solitary old woman fixing her lipstick. At that very time, Professor Sathe was looking around for Kamini in the large foyer. Just as he beckoned the security person to make inquiries, his cell phone buzzed. The texted message was, "No, I wasn't joking, Dad. It's been a revealing evening. Thanks for educating me. My terms remain the same. Come." When a very sleepy and groggy Rajni opened the door, she received a chastening greeting from Kamini. "Don't tell me, bitch, that you have already taken in another boarder." They both hugged warmly and tightly. End of part 2, chapter 6.